I know I still look like crap, but recovering slowly. Anyway, there's an issue that came up on the site in comments, and I'm going to be repeating myself. I have to be repeating myself. I know I've said this over and over and over again, but obviously it hasn't sunk in, or somebody, people don't get it. People don't get it at all. And that is the difference between being negative and being realistic. Well, first of all, I think it's a completely false and fake dichotomy that there is only positive or negative, and that's it. And that always negative is bad and positive is good. Because, in my opinion, generally, if somebody is trying to be positive, then they are leading you down a primrose path. They're telling you lies. I wish I remember that book. There was a book I read, and it was designed for parents to basically try to weed out predators for their kids and keep their kids safe. And basically that's what it said. If somebody is being nice and kind and positive, I mean, being, not that they are. I mean, there are just generally nice people in the world that just, that is the way that they are. Anyway, I'm going to leave that. But there are just plain nice people. And then there are people who are being nice. And those people are trying to get over on you. In a nutshell, that's it. They've got an agenda and they're trying to get over on you. And so if you've got somebody that is actively trying to go out of their way to be positive and to ignore facts, you've got to ignore them. And you got to get away from them. They're going to make you feel terrible because they're going to have this standard that they want you to keep and make, and nobody can get there. I mean, for example, with avoidant people, I mean, the standard in the world is that you're supposed to be partnered and you're supposed to have so many friends and blah, blah, blah. And, yes, it's biological. We're supposed to partner up. However, it's not the only way to live. And if you're avoidant and you have to be not with people, probably there's going to be some points in your life where you're completely miserable because of that. And that's just fact. But you don't have to conform to society's ideas of what this world should look like and what you should act like. And it's not being positive to try to delude yourself into thinking that you're capable of having, a partner and 4 kids and birthday parties every other week and that sort of thing. You've got 10 best friends that you interact with on every day and the most perfect job in the world. Avoidant people are never, ever, ever, ever going to have that kind of lifestyle, and that is fine. It's a tough sort of thing to define, to say that it's okay to have an alternative lifestyle, and to say that it's not possible to have this fantasy lifestyle. And that's what it is. It's a fantasy. It's based on media or some type of story that was fed to you when you were a child that you're supposed to live like this. You know what? Avoidance is hard enough on its own without not having the ability to live up to these fantasies and this pressure that was put on you that everybody needs to conform this way, and everybody can be positive, and everybody can have somebody in their life. This is not true. And it might not be because there's something wrong with you as far as you're not desirable or that you don't have anything to offer to somebody. It could be that you are avoidant and you just can't tolerate that kind of intimacy in your life. And you just can't. Okay, well, don't beat yourself up because you're incapable of it. And if you're avoidant, chances are really good that you're incapable of it. You definitely can't keep up that level, you know. And I actually got schooled this week by my therapist, who told me, and I think that I'm pretty much in touch with this kind of thing, but even she said, okay, listen, you cannot take a relationship you have with somebody who is a therapist or a worker for you or something and equate that the same as a friend, an actual friend or an actual partner or something. I mean, I got yelled at this week for, and I wasn't really doing that. I mean, I was making a distinction, except I was sort of saying, okay, well, these type of people react to me this way, and also the worker people react to me this way. It's across the board. And she's like, nope, you can't equate them. You've got to be in one category or the other. You can't have both of them together. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work because workers are going to quit, period, and friends should not, unless there's a problem. And workers, you just can't depend on them, and so you can't really think of them the same way. You just can't. So if a worker leaves, that's like, oh, well, you know, their job ended, period. But if a friend leaves, that's a different story entirely. That sort of thing. But anyway, I'm sort of off track, which is, and I'm sure I'm being repetitive. I know I've said this before. There is a humongous difference between being negative, which is just exactly the same as being false positive. It's somebody that's constantly pulling, you know, the rug out from under you and saying awful things. I mean, these are actually, that is a sign of being an abuser. You know, when you were growing up, that's probably one of the reasons why you became the way you were, because nobody could accept that you had any positive qualities. And every time something good happened to you, they had to say, okay, well, yeah, well, what about this? What about this? And brought back the negative. I was told that was because they didn't want me to get too big for my britches, and so they were trying to balance me out. And bull, that's abuse. Anyway, so again, if somebody is like permanently negative, that is the same as being a false positive person. It's a fake. It's a put on. It's an act. They're trying to manipulate you in some way or else. However, there's a completely separate thing, which is being realistic. And I was accused of being negative, and I'm not. I am realistic. It's called radical acceptance. I did go through DBT. I hated DBT. I don't think it works. Well, you know, I think, see, I did group DBT with people who were borderline and were not fully treated, and it was bad. I think that if you can do DBT on a one-on-one and not in a class, there's a lot of stuff you can learn. I don't know, if you could get a DBT book and read it, it can be really interesting. And the best thing I learned out of it was how to be mindful. That was actually really helpful. And it took training. It took like 6 months for me to learn how to do it. To actively be mindful. And I can actually use that now to sort of pull myself out of panic attacks. So it's really useful. But the radical acceptance of DBT is to say, you know, this is what it is, and it's okay. It's okay that it's what it is. Well, guess what? Avoidant people are not going to have tons of people in their life. And chances are they're going to pick people that are similar to their abusers. And that is just human nature. It's really unfortunate, but it's an absolute fact. And that is not me being negative. That is me saying, here's what's happening. This is what's happening. And that's what I'm trying to do on this, with these videos, is basically tell it like it is. You know, you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. You want to be in fantasy land that life is going to suddenly, out of the blue, becomes perfect and wonderful and it's going to look like something on TV? whatever. You can delude yourself and you can be miserable trying to chase that all your life. Avoidant people, they need to find a different path. And there are ways of being satisfied with your life, even if you're not happy. It's sort of part of the diagnosis that it's difficult or impossible to feel happiness and joy. That is part of the diagnosis. So that is not me being negative. That is how it is. Which is why I really want people to get a diagnosis rather than to self-diagnose, because chances are you're not avoidant if you're self-diagnosed. I mean, something like 90% is what the testing is, that people self-diagnosed turn out they do not have avoidance, which means that they're capable of happiness. Woohoo! Awesome! That's great. And I know that sounds probably, it's coming off as obnoxious, but I mean it. That's awesome. If you can be happy, be happy. If you are avoidant, you need to find something else other than the traditional happiness, which is, you know, joy in your family and your friends. That doesn't happen for avoidant people, because whenever happiness sort of builds, you have this equal and opposite effect that brings in negativity. And actually just like tonight, saw a TED Talk about how negative things stick with you. And if you this is just regular people. Forget about avoidant people who it seems to be extra sticky. But even, you know, totally average, everybody, basically, we're hardwired to retain negative things because, of course, we're, you know, it's biological. We need to know that that plant is going to kill you if you eat it. And you can't forget that. So you got to keep it in mind. So that's the way people are. And so, yeah, you've got to work as just everybody has to work really hard to let go of the negative and accept the positive. And avoidant people, I can't do it. They just can't. Now that's, you know, so you just have to have a different standard. You have to make your own standard. You can't, you know, think I'm going to be, you know, happy-go-lucky, positive. That's why daily affirmations do not work for avoidant people. It makes them all, and the very least, nervous or absolutely nauseated in the worst, or really makes them angry. I mean, they just don't work. It just does not work for avoidant people, and that's okay. We're different, and it's okay to be different. But, you know, saying that is not me being negative. It's me being realistic, and it really bothers me massively. I mean, I take a personal offense and affront to it. And not just for myself, whenever I see anybody else doing it too. If somebody says something and they're being honest and they're being realistic, and it's like, stop being so negative. No, it's telling the truth. You know, I personally really respect people who tell the truth. And I aim to tell the truth, even though sometimes it's not real pretty, as much as possible. And I do not think that people should be made to feel shame or bad for telling the truth and being realistic, and not trying to put up a false positivity just because somebody else is uncomfortable and they don't want to see the truth.